At the end of our first season of Everybody Loves Raymond, I asked Raymond where he was going on his hiatus, the little vacation that you get between seasons 1 and 2, if you're lucky enough to have a season 2. And I said, "Where you going?" And he said, "Nah, I'm going to the Jersey Shore." And I said, "Oh, that's nice. Have you ever been to Europe?" And he said, "Nah." I said, "Why not?" And he goes, "I'm not really interested in other cultures. Even his own culture, Italy." And then a light bulb went off, and I thought, we got to do that episode. We got to send him over there with that attitude and send him back with mine. Someone who's excited about travel in Italy and the food in Italy and the scenery and the people and the experience of travel. And I wanted him to have that feeling that I had when I was 23 years old. I had never been anywhere until that point. Our family didn't have a lot of money. I think we went to Atlanta for a bar mitzvah once when I was 9, and maybe we went to a condo in Miami from a relative when I was 12. That was it. And those were great. But when I was 23, I got a cheap flight to Paris, a courier flight, and I had a few magical days there. It blew my mind. And then I took an overnight train to Florence. And in that train ride overnight was this young Italian couple about my age, also about 23. They were dating, this young couple, and they worked in the bakery in Florence, and they gave me places to go when I would come to Florence. We stayed up all night in that train car, and we were drinking and having fun. And they said, visit the bakery. So, of course, the very next day, I didn't know anybody in Florence except them, my new friends. And so I went. And I'll never forget Danya, that was the girl's name. Her dad ran the bakery, and he looked at me and he said, "America, John Wayne," 1983. He then sat me down and proceeded to feed me. He gave me every pastry in the shop. And because I was American, imagine this, everyone else on the block, the lady with the sandwiches, the lady who had the pizza place, a chocolatier came. They sat me outside the shop and they started bringing pasta and stuff. It was mind-blowing. Danya and Dario and I became friends, and then later I brought Monica to Italy and introduced her, and then later they came to New York with their whole family, the parents and their little new baby, because they had been married. Her name was Ginevra. They all stayed in my one-bedroom apartment. It was crowded, but we're friends for life. So that's what can happen. I wanted Raymond to understand just a little of that, because I think the world would be better if we all could experience a little bit of someone else's experience. It took about 5 years to convince him to get on a plane, but when we did it, what I saw happen to the character that I wrote, Ray gets woke in the show, happened to the person. I saw it happen to him. He was ricocheting around piazzas going, "Phil, did you try this pizza? It's unbelievable. Oh, look at this gelato. Have you had the lemon? It's unbelievable." Yes, Ray, I've had it. And that got in very deep. To see your friend get turned on to this great part of life, I think we all do what we do because we like turning people on to the stuff we like. That's how, that's what friends are, right? So that got in very deep. Now, I didn't know that a show for me could come out of that. We had another 4 years to run on Raymond. Lasted 9 years. And after that, I thought, well, everybody else wants me to do another sitcom because that's where the money is. So I tried to do another sitcom, but the business had changed in the 9-year bubble I was in doing Raymond. And it wasn't so welcome anymore, this type of show, meaning a family show with jokes that were not so blunt or rough. But it turned out that people now wanted the hip and edgy type of shows, and that's not really my wheelhouse, as I guess you could tell by looking at me. And to be fair, I didn't really want the kind of shows that they were doing either. So I kept striking out, and it wasn't for lack of trying. I kept trying. But in the back of my head was this idea. What if I could do the travel show? What if I could do the travel show? Now, I wrote a book in the meanwhile about how to make a sitcom. I wrote about my travels in that book because everything in Raymond came from something that happened to us in real life. And I also made a movie during that time. I made a movie because the Russians called, this is true, they asked me if I wanted to turn my sitcom into Everybody Loves Kostya. Yes. And so I agreed to do this if I could film the whole thing. And now this would be the first time that I personally would be on camera. And I enjoyed it. I wasn't acting or anything. I just enjoyed editing it. I enjoyed the story of what was happening to that guy who I understood to be a character, a kind of schlemiel that stuff happens to. And people noticed. And I started to get a little traction for my other idea, which was this food and travel show with maybe me as the host, because it had worked in Russia. And I even Skyped with my parents from Russia, which would become a big part of the travel show as well. Now, the agents, when you come to them after having created and run a sitcom that was successful, you come to them and say, I would now like to host a travel show. They're not jumping up and down. They're not excited. There's no real money in that. But they said, if you're going to do it, let's go first to the Travel Channel. That's it. They have the most money, so let's go. So we have a meeting with the head of the Travel Channel at this time. And he says to me, I got to be honest with you. We've done some research and we found that our audience really isn't into travel. I said, oh my, well, what are you going to do? He said, well, we're going to do shows that are travel adjacent. I said, well, what the hell does that mean? And they said, well, an example would be a show like Pimp My RV, meaning we take an RV and we pimp it out, meaning decorate it inside, and we don't go anywhere. So it's travel adjacent. I said, okay, well, thanks anyway. And he said, oh, and we've done some research, and the only food that people are interested in is barbecue. Good to know. Thank you. Can I go now to PBS maybe? Because I think they might be interested in this type of show. I'd like to do the travel show with a food focus because that's my main interest when I travel, and I'd love to do it. No, first you're going to go to the Food Network then if you're interested in food. Oh, okay. I go to the Food Network, meet with the head of the Food Network. I am not making any of this up. And the head of the Food Network says, we're kind of getting away from the food thing. Really? Yeah, we're doing shows that are more food adjacent. Yes, everybody's doing things that are next to something. They're not actually doing anything. They do competition shows now. They're not really interested in the food. And by the way, if they are interested in food, the only food that Americans are interested in, I said, don't tell me, barbecue. They said, that's right. How'd you know? Because I met with the Travel Channel, which is the same owners as the Food Channel. Now, can I go to PBS? Yes, I can go to PBS. I go to PBS. I tell them my idea. They say, well, what would the show be like? And I said, well, it would be me going around trying to get people to travel by showing them the best places in the world to eat. And you, what do you bring to it? I said, well, I would say I'm exactly like Anthony Bourdain if he was afraid of everything. And that worked. They got it. They understood. They said they've been looking for a show, a food and travel show with humor for years. So after 10 years of trying to do this, of banging my head against this particular spot in the show business wall, I just picked the spot that I really, really liked after striking out with sitcoms, I got through. And I called my brother. Why my brother? Because he was already a producer for Facebook videos. So he had some experience producing things. He also was a producer on the network side of Comedy Central. And his shows had already won some Emmys. So he was qualified. And I wanted to work with him. And I said, quit your job and come to this show with me. He goes, what show? They're going to see, PBS is going to be 6 episodes on the air of going around the world and eating. He said, really, you got that show? I said, yes. He goes, what are they going to call this show? The Lucky Bastard? I said, quit your job and come with me and produce the show with me. And we'll call our production company Lucky Bastards. And that's what we did. And we did I'll Have What Phil's Having for PBS. We went to Paris and Barcelona and Italy and Tokyo and Hong Kong. I considered it, Earth's greatest hits. I was trying to get Mr. and Mrs. America. 2/3 of us don't even have a passport. So I wanted to start with popular tourist attractions, tourist sites. And it seemed to go very well. And then guess what? PBS didn't pick up the show, even though it had worked very well and was a hit for them. I think they couldn't raise the money. I don't know why. But here comes Netflix. And then I got to do Somebody Feed Phil. And it's been the joy of my life to work with my brother, to travel around, to meet these people, to meet new friends, and to make new friends over the internet and over social media, right? And just have the time of my life. I really think there's no more mind-expanding thing we can do in life than travel. And the reason I use food is because food is the great connector. And for me, laughs are the cement. And I'm using food and hopefully my stupid sense of humor just to get you to think about traveling. Take that little baby step off the couch and go. It's going to make your life better. Listen, if somebody gave you a house, would you spend your whole life in one room of the house? No, you'd want to check it out. So, we only go through once, people. I want you to see the whole house. I'm taking everything I learned about how to make a show, and it's in the service of everything I love in life. Family, friends, food, travel, and laughs. These are the values. This is what I like. Now, I wish for you what I had. Doing something you love with people you love. And I'm going to leave you with this little bit of advice. The best advice I ever got, it was from a showrunner named Ed Weinberger. And when I was writing the pilot for Raymond, he told me this. Do the show you want to do, because in the end, they're going to cancel you anyway. This is a very good philosophy of life. Do the show you want to do, because we all get canceled one day. So live your life. Now, I know it's a crazy time full of uncertainty, and maybe we're not traveling so soon, but I'm very confident that we will. I think as soon as there's a vaccine that we trust, we're going to be out there again, and the world's going to be waiting. So, if it's all a crapshoot anyway, live your life.